Hi everyone, welcome back to ladensercrotchets. If you're new to the channel, you're welcome. Kindly subscribe and join the ladensercrotchets family because I guarantee you that you're going to get tutorials that you're going to love. In this one, we're creating a cardigan. It's a patchwork cardigan and I used shades of green to create the ombre effect, and I hope you're going to enjoy creating this as much as I did. You can make this to your preferred length. It doesn't have to be as short as mine because I'm giving instructions on the length that you're going to need. Let's get in the tutorial. The following are the requirements for this project. You're going to need a measuring tape, 2 hooks. I'll be using a 3.5 and a 2.5. You can use 4 millimeters and 3.5. You don't have to use exactly the ones that I'm using now. The bigger hook will be for the main part of the cardigan, and the smaller hook will be for the ribbing of the cardigan. Then you're going to need some stitch markers, a tapestry needle, and you're going to need medium weight yarn. I'll be using these 5 shades of green. You can use 3 colors, 4 or 5, or even 1 color. You don't have to use as many colors as I'm using. These are the measurements that you're going to take. You'll start with your shoulder to shoulder measurement. Mine is 17, and because I don't want to work a cardigan that is fully fitting, I'm increasing that shoulder to shoulder measurement by 4. So I'll be working with 21. So whatever shoulder measurement you've decided to work with, you're going to take it and divide it by 3, and that will give, for me, it will give me 7. And then you're going to need the full length of the cardigan. Then you'll subtract 2. 2 represents the ribbing all around the cardigan. So that's why we are subtracting. And we're going to work in 3 patches. So we'll have 3. We'll have one long one, which represents the front and the back on the side. Then another one on the other side, representing the front and the back. Then a middle one that will only represent the back part. So we'll have 2 long ones and 1 short one to make 3 patches before we do the sleeves. That is, now the 7 inches that we got here is our starting chain. So that means each of the panel will have 7 inches, or a starting chain of 7 inches, and then we're going to work the length as we change the colors. So that means after my starting chain of 7 inches, I'll do 1 color, then the next as I change. Then this panel and this one will be completely identical. I've already worked one of these and I'll show you how to go about it. So this right here is one of my long panels. When I fold it into 2, this gives me the front and the back of the cardigan. As you can see, my cardigan is not too long, so it should be like this. So this is one side, and then we'll have another one on this other side. Let me show you the measurements. So the full length of my cardigan was 18 minus 2, which is 16. And as you can see, when you measure this, it goes up to 16 inches when folded into 2. And that means the whole of it is 32 inches. So we're going to work this one. Now we begin with this color. And for each of the panels, I've done a total of, each of the colors, I've done a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, that is 12 rows of each color before changing to the next one. So we begin with a slip knot and chain 25. So depending on the size of your shoulder to shoulder measurement, after dividing it by 3, you're going to chain. You could chain 25, you could chain 20, you could chain 30. That depends on your shoulder to shoulder measurement. So when I measure this, without stretching, it goes up to 7 inches, as you can see right here. So now our starting chain is ready. Next, we're going to hold the last chain that we worked and work 1 more chain. Then yarn over. Go into that chain that you're holding, put your hook through, yarn over, grab a loop. You'll have 3 loops on the hook. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through all the loops. And that's a half double crochet. Then you're going to do another half double crochet into the next chain. A half double crochet into the chain that follows. And 1 half double crochet all the way to the end of the row. At the end of row 1, we should have a total of 25 half double crochets. I'm in the last chain, and right there we place our last half double crochet. Then row 1 is done. Chain 1 and turn to begin row 2. We work in these stitches that are very visible, and beginning with the first one, place a half double crochet right there, then a half double crochet into the next stitch and into all the stitches along the row. At the end of row 2, you should still have 25 half double crochets. That is, if you started with 25. If you started with 20, you should have 20. So there's this last stitch that you might not see clearly, but make sure that you don't miss it. Make sure that you don't miss the last stitch, and to ensure that, just count your stitches or mark the first and you can mark the first stitch to ensure that you don't forget it. So chain 1 and turn, then place a half double crochet into that first stitch. Then this is what I mean by marking the first stitch. You get a stitch marker and place it into that stitch that you've done right there, just to ensure that you don't forget it, because it's very easily forgettable. So just mark it and then continue all the way to the end, working just one half double crochet in every stitch. I'm in the last stitch now, this one that is not too visible, so place a half double crochet into it, chain 1 and turn to begin row 4. Begin in the first stitch with a half double crochet, and you'll need to mark that too. So that means every time you begin the row and you don't want to miss any stitch, you mark the first stitch. Alternatively, you can count the stitches, and that way you'll not miss out any stitch, or you'll not place any excess stitches into your work. So then just keep going till you get to the last stitch, which has a stitch marker. Once you get to the end, pull out the stitch marker and place your last stitch there. Chain 1 and turn to begin row 5. Start in the first stitch with a half double crochet, then mark the first stitch. And now continue to the end of the row. We're going to work like this for a total of 12 rows. I'm done with row 12, with the 12 rows, so I'm going to chain 1 and cut off that yarn at that point. Cut it off, pull through and fasten. And now our first patch is done. If you want your patch bigger than this, you can do more rows, like 20 and so on. Now turn your work to the other side and grab the next color. Then into the first stitch, put your hook through and grab a loop from the other color, just like this. Sorry. Then chain 1, and we are going to work over these ends, those two ends. After chaining 1, we'll start in that very first stitch, sorry. And we start with a half double crochet into the first stitch. Ensure you're working over the ends. Then a half double crochet into all the stitches to the end of row 13, or to the end of the first row of the second color. So at the end we chain 1 and turn and continue with the rows. So I'm going to work 12 rows with this color, then reattach the next one. So now I'm done with the second patch. Time to attach the third color. So we start by turning this to the other side. Then in the first stitch, pull a loop of the next color and chain 1. Then a half double crochet into that first stitch and start working as you work over these two ends. Just 1 half double crochet into every stitch. So I'll keep going, working the patches and changing the colors until I have the length of my cardigan multiplied by 2. We are multiplying by 2 because we are working both the front and the back at the same time. That is, we are working it in the same panel. At this point, I have a length of, let's see, a length of 8 inches, and I want to go up to 32, or 16 plus 16, which is 32. So I'll just keep going. I'll change the colors. Let me show you how I changed for this one. So as you can see, I started with this, followed by that. So I'll move to the next one, and this is the last one. After you're done with the last color, you're going to start from the beginning, from the top again, from the one that you began with, like that, till you get to your full length. I'll be back once I get another panel like this one. I have the two opposite panels ready. That is, we have the one that will be on the right side, on the left side, and the one that will be on the right side. So this is the back and the front panel of the cardigan. Then we have the back and the front, and then we're going to work another one that we're going to attach at the middle for the back. Like I mentioned, there were going to be 3 panels. We already have 2, so we need to work the third one, which I've already done, and this is my third panel. So we're going to attach these panels together. Now when I'm working the middle one, I begin with the second color that I had in the first one. So the second, then the third, the fourth, and the fifth, so that it creates this pattern as you can see it. So you need to create that pattern. Now next we're going to join the panels together, and to do that we need to mark. So I'm marking to align the panels together, and the points that I'm marking are the points that we are going to, these are the parts that we're going to attach together, the corresponding panels. You want to ensure that they are all well aligned. Then I'll get other stitch markers and mark the other side, but you can first attach this side and then after that you attach on the other end if you do not have enough stitch markers. Now get the sewing needle and start joining the pieces together. So this needle and whatever color you want to join with, I'll be using the darker shade, this one right here. So just put a piece of yarn into the needle that is enough to sew from the bottom to this point right here. Then you're going to grab the first row on one end, then align it with the first row on the other side. I work from this side so that I can use this to make a knot at the beginning. So just create a knot at this point. So just start sewing, and this is how I go about it. I insert my needle in on one row on one side like this. I'm working over these ends, then insert on a row on the other row, on the corresponding row on the other side, then on this side, then on the other side. So notice that I'm alternating. I'm working at the bottom of the ends, then on top like this. Then I go below the ends, then on top of the ends as I work on the rows. You can sew however you feel is okay for you. You don't have to do it the same way I'm doing. So just go on, attach the two ends till you get to the last stitch marker. So I've created a knot at the end, and then I'm going to weave in the ends that remain. So those two ends are joined. This is the right side, as you can see. You can't really tell the color that was used in joining. It's visible, but not that much. So then, after attaching those points, we're going to attach the other end, and I'll do that off camera, and I'll come back once I've attached this part. At this point, I have my 3 panels joined together like this, and so we have the main part of the cardigan done. What's remaining is to work the sleeves and then work the ribbon. So we're going to work the sleeves. Before we join these sides, we're going to work the sleeves and attach them. Now I've already done one of the sleeves, so let me show you how it looks like. So here is my sleeve. When I fold it, this we have I've already also done the ribbon on the sleeve. I've joined the panels. So for the sleeve, I've done 4 panels. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And to achieve the sleeve length, I've done a total of 60 stitches. So I've taken 60. The total of these is 60. I've taken 60 divided by 4 to give me 15. You can take 60 divided by 3 if you want 3 panels. So each of the panels is going to have 15 stitches. So we begin with this one, or we can also begin with this one. So let me begin with this. Let me show you. Now that you already know how to work the panels, I'll just show you a little bit of the sleeve part, and then I'll let you work the other panels. Then we're going to join them together. So you begin with a slip knot and then chain 15. So those are my 15 chains. Then I'll block off the 15th chain and chain 1 more, then yarn over and go into that chain that I'm holding, then place a half double crochet into it. So grab a loop, you'll have 3 loops, yarn over and pull through. Or you already know how to work the half double crochet. Then you're going to work a half double crochet into the next stitch and into all the stitches till you get to the last stitch. At the end of this row, you should have 15 stitches. Now if you decide to work 3 panels instead of 4, you'll work 20 stitches. If you feel like the 60 stitches is too big for you, you can work between 45 to 60, whatever works for you or whatever fits. My sleeves are a bit oversized, and that is why I'm working with 60 stitches for the sleeve. So I'm just placing 1 half double crochet into each of the chains, and I'm in the last one. Then I'm going to chain 1 and turn to begin row 2. We begin row 2 into the first stitch, place a half double crochet there, and 1 half double crochet into all the stitches. So this is generally what we've done with the main part, only that we are working fewer stitches. So now you're going to go on and create a panel like this. So like the one that I have right here, I did a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A total of 12 rows. So I did a total of 12 for the first, the second 12 rows, the third 12, the fourth 12. So I did a total of 4 complete panels, and this gives me a length. Total length of the sleeve will be, it will be 17 before attaching the ribbon. So you need to measure your sleeve length to know whether you're going. And then after we attach the ribbon, it goes up to around 19.5. So like if you measure your sleeve length and it is 20, you're going to take 20 minus 2 to get 18. So mine is 20 minus 2, which is, mine is 19.5, or we can say we can estimate it to 19 minus 2, which is 17. So now you're going to work this panel until you get to 17. So let me show you before attaching how it looks like. So I've already done my 4 panels right here. This is the first one. Sorry, which one? Let's see. So this right here is the first panel. As you can see, it looks completely identical to the other one. Then the one that starts with the shade is the second one. So that's our second panel. And then this is the third. and then we have the fourth one right here. So those, as you can see, you work them in such a way that they're going to form a pattern when you join them. So these ones are giving me my sleeve before I work the ribbon. So now what I'm just going to do is get the stitch markers and mark, and then I'm going to use the darning needle to attach the 4 of them together. You want to do this on the wrong side, or the side that you feel is the wrong side of your panels. So these are the wrong sides. Now we just attach or pin them together, pin the panels together with stitch markers, just to ensure that when you're attaching them, they are well aligned. Now, as you can see, I did 12, 12, 12, 12. Then the last one is 6. That means 12 times 4, that is 48. 48 plus 6, that's 48, 54. So in total, I did 54 rows for one of the panels. Now, I'll join these two. Once I'm done joining these, I'll join the next one. Then after that, I'll join the last one. And then I'll be back to show you how to do the ribbon. I'm done with attaching the 4 panels of the sleeve. So when you fold it, it should be like this. And now we're going to do this ribbon on one of the edges. So you're going to get one of the edges on the right side. So I'll turn this to the right side and I'm going to work from this side. Using the 3 millimeters, the 2.5, sorry, the 2.5 instead of the 3.5 millimeter crochet hook. I'm going to use this shade to work the ribbon. And what we do is begin with a slip knot. Then get this side. We are working on this part that goes to the wrist. So now get the end of the sleeve and reattach the yarn in the first stitch. This one right here. Do a slip knot at that point. So we're going to do a slip knot into that first stitch. Do the slip knot, then chain 10. Then hold the 10th stitch and chain one more. Then go into the 10th stitch, put your hook through, yarn over and grab a loop such that you have 2 loops on your hook. Then yarn over, pull through the 2 loops to complete a single crochet. And now we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the stitches in the back loop. So now I have 10 single crochets, and then we're going to connect this row on the second stitch, this one right here. Put your hook through and do a slip stitch. Then we're going to do 2 more slip stitches for a total of 3. So into the next stitch, do a slip stitch. Into the stitch that follows, do another slip stitch. Then we're going to turn without chaining. Just turn your work. And now be careful not to work on these 2 slip stitches. So you're going to count 1, 2, and now we're going to work into the 3rd stitch, which is a single crochet, this one right here, and we are working in the back loop. So into this back loop, put your hook through and do a single crochet. Go into the back loop of the next stitch, do a single crochet. Into the back loop of the stitch that follows, and do single crochets into the back loop of each of the stitches to the end of row 2. At the end of row 2, you should have a total of 10 single crochets. Make sure that your single crochets are in the back loops. Now this right here is the last stitch, so be sure not to miss it. Put your hook there and do the last single crochet. On this side, we're going to be chaining 1. On this other side, we are not chaining. So at this point, we chain 1 to begin row 3 and turn our work. Begin in the first stitch in the back loop. Do a single crochet. The next stitch in the back loop. And all the stitches, we're going to place a single crochet into each of the back loops. So now I have my 10 stitches. I'll move, we worked in this stitch previously, so we move into the next one and do a slip stitch there. That is one. Do another slip stitch for the second one and do a 3rd slip stitch. Then turn your work without chaining, and we begin in the single crochet. This is the first single crochet right here. So the single crochets begin here. My lighting is not good enough. So right here, this is where we begin the single crochet. Then into the next back loop and into all the back loops to the end. At the end, you should have a total of 10 single crochets. That's the end of row 3. Chain 1 and turn to begin row 4. Work in the back loops. And work a total of 10 single crochets. Then into the next stitch, do a slip stitch, 1, 2 and 3, then turn to begin the next row. Make sure you begin in the single crochet and not the slip stitches at this point. So single crochet there, and work 10 single crochets, 1 into each of the stitches, and repeat this pattern till you've worked all the way to this end. Both of the sleeves are ready, and now we are going to attach them to the main part of the sweater. So I'll just get this piece, then straighten it like this. From the wrong side, you're going to determine the middle part, or this part that goes to the shoulder, and then the wrong side of the sleeve, get the middle part of that sleeve. So the reason why I worked 4 patches is so that it's easy to identify the middle part. And then I'll just put my stitch marker at that part right there, and this part on the shoulders on the other side, just like that. And then I'm going to count the stitches. Actually these are rows, so counting the stitches might be quite a hassle, but then I'll just mark and ensure that my work is well aligned. So I'll mark on this end and on this other end. So that's how, or that's where we're going to attach one of the sleeves. Then we go on to the other side and get the other sleeve and stitch markers. Make sure you're on the wrong side of both the sleeve and the sweater. Attach on the shoulder part, this part right here. That is, pin the shoulder part of the sweater and the middle part of the sleeve. So this is what we're going to have. Once we are done attaching, we fold like this, and then on the other side, same way. So I'm going to attach the sleeves, both of the sleeves, using single crochets. So I'll hold my work like this. Get the main hook that I was using, that is the 3.5, and yarn. So we're going to place, remove this stitch marker and put the hook through and through to the first stitch on the sleeve, then grab the yarn. Alternatively, I can work from the other side, so that I work from the side where I can see the stitches clearly. Let me turn it to the other side. You can attach with single crochets or using the tapestry needle. It really doesn't matter as long as you attach it well. So in this first stitch and on the first row on the sweater, grab a loop, chain one, and go into that stitch with a single crochet. So I want to ensure that this patch is aligned with this patch on the other side. So to ensure that, I can mark still at these points. Then now proceed to attach with single crochets while working on this end and on this other end. So I'm just placing a single crochet into every stitch and ensuring that I go all the way through to the other side. So at the end, you're going to chain one and cut off the yarn at that point. Pull through, then fasten, and that sleeve is attached. This is the right side and the wrong side. Now you're going to turn the sleeve to on the wrong side still, and then we're going to attach from the wrist, and then we're going to come all the way to the part below the armpit and then attach all the way down. So I'll just use stitch markers to mark the specific parts that should be well aligned. So I'll start with the armpits, then on the sleeves I'll pin the patches together. So now, starting from here, I'm going to attach all the way down to this point. You can use the single crochets or you can use the tapestry needle. One side of the sweater is joined all the way to the bottom, and at that point I'll just chain one and cut off the yarn. So this is what we're going to have, and we can turn this to the right side, you know. So I'll just go to the other side and attach the other sleeve the same way I've done on this other side. I'll be back once I'm done with that other sleeve. Both sleeves are attached, as you can see. And now it's time to do the ribbing on this part, and then after we're done with the front part ribbing, we'll do the ribbing at the bottom. Now for the front part, we start from this end. Make sure that your cardigan is turned to the right side, and then begin from this end. So I'll just turn my work, and I'm going to do a row of single crochets all the way around till I get to this point, and then once I get to this end, I'll start doing the ribbing. Now for the single crochets, I'll use the 3.5 millimeter crochet hook. Then for the ribbing, I'll use the 2.5. So get the yarn that you're going to work your ribbing with, and begin from the row on this end. So at this point, reattach the yarn, grab the loop, and chain one. Then on that row, we're going to place one single crochet. Now in the row that follows, we're going to place 2 single crochets. Then 1 single crochet into the next row, 2 single crochets into the row that follows. Then 1 single crochet, next 2 single crochets. So we're going to alternate between 1 single crochet in one row, then 2 single crochets into the next row. And I'm going to work till I get to the top right here. Then I'll show you what to do next. Now once you get to the corner, we skip over this and go into the rows. So now we are working rows on this part. So 1 single crochet, not rows but stitches. We are skipping this stitch right here and go into the next one and place just 1 single crochet into every stitch. Once you get to the corner, skip the last stitch and move onto the row on the other side and place 2 single crochets in that row. Then 1 single crochet into the row that follows, 2 single crochets into the next row, 1 single crochet into the next row, then 2 single crochets, and alternate till you get to the bottom part. I'm placing the last single crochet into the last row, and I'll change from this hook to the 2.5 millimeter crochet hook. So now this is what we have. like that. Now chain 10 from this point. So 1, 2, now chain 1 more while holding the 10 stitch, then go into that stitch and place a single crochet, and place a single crochet into every stitch till you have 10 single crochets. Once you have the 10 single crochets, turn your work like this, and we're not going to work in this first stitch. We'll move right into the next stitch and do a slip stitch, 1, then do a second slip stitch, then turn your work like this, work in the back loops of the single crochets and work 10 single crochets into the back loops. Chain 1 and turn to begin row 3. Begin in the first stitch in the back loop, then work in the back loops of each of the stitches for a total of 10 single crochets. Once you get to that part, we worked into this stitch previously, so we move into the next one. Do the first slip stitch and then do a second slip stitch into the next stitch, then turn, start working in the last single crochet you did and work in the back loops, in the back loop of each of the stitches for a total of 10 single crochets. Chain 1 and turn, then again work in the back loops, then move into the next stitch and do a slip stitch, a slip stitch into the next stitch, turn your work, begin in the first stitch right here in the back loop, and this is a pattern that we're going to repeat till we go all the way around and come back to this point where we started. So I'll go ahead and do the ribbing on that front part of the cardigan. Once I'm done, I'll be back so that we can do the ribbing at the bottom. So we are at the end, and at that point do not cut off the yarn. So I'll just pull this through and then show you how the cardigan should look like at this point now, after working that edging on the front part. So this is what we're going to have. Now we want to do the edging on the bottom part of the cardigan, and we're just going to continue from where we've ended right here. So turn your work like this, put the hook through, and now from this point we're going to chain 10. After chaining 10, you want to block off the 10th chain and chain one more, go into that stitch with a single crochet and work a single crochet into each of the stitches for a total of 10 till you get to this part. Once you get to the 10th stitch, you're not going to work into this first stitch. You'll switch straight into the second and do a slip stitch. Then do a slip stitch into the one that follows and turn your work. Again, in row 2, we do a single crochet into the back loop of each of the stitches. Once you get to the last one, do a single crochet, chain one and turn. So now we are working the ribbon this way all the way around till we get to this end. Start with a single crochet in the back loop of the first stitch and do a single crochet into each of the back loops. Once you get to the end, slip stitch into the next stitch and slip stitch on the one that follows and turn to the other side to work the next row. Single crochet into all the stitches. So I'll do some rows and then I'll be back and show you where I'll have gotten before I continue all the way to the end. So at this point, I've done the bottom edging for the front part, and now I'm going to move to the back part. Now for the front part, I was only slip stitching twice, but for the back part, I'll be slip stitching 3 times. So like right now, I've already done this row. So to do the slip stitch, I'm going to move on to the next stitch and do a slip stitch right here. That's the first one. Then I'll do a second slip stitch and I'll do a third one before turning. So then turn and then begin from the single crochet right here and work 10 single crochets in the back loop all the way up. Then chain 1 and turn to begin the next row. And that's going to be a single crochet into every stitch in the back loop, beginning with this one, the first one right there. So once I get to the bottom of the row, I'll work a slip stitch into the next stitch. 1, 2, and 3. Then turn. and then work the single crochets in the back loops of the previous single crochets. Now I'm going to be slip stitching 3 times for this part only, the 3 panels that are covering the back part of the sweater. Are they 3? Yeah, this 1, 2 and 3. And then when I get into this one, I'll only slip stitch twice. Now you can decide to slip stitch twice for all the rows if your cardigan is longer. So if it's a bit long, slip stitch only twice. If it's a bit cropped like mine, you need to slip stitch 3 times. The reason why I'm doing that, it's so as to ensure that the back part is not bulging, because by working the 3 slip stitches, we're going to have the back part drawing itself so that it fits well on the waist. So if your cardigan is long, just do 2 slip stitches in the back part, just like we've done with the front part. I'll do this for the 3 panels that are on the back part of the cardigan. Then I'll be back when I get to the other panel and show you the difference between this part and that other part. After working the ribbon on the back part of the cardigan, this is what I'm going to have. And so I'm remaining with this part that is at the front. And like I mentioned earlier, at the front part, we'll be slip stitching twice and not thrice like we've been doing right here. So once you worked your row to this point, we're going to put our hook into the next stitch and do a slip stitch. Then do a second slip stitch into the next stitch. And then turn. Then we're just going to work the single crochets in the back loops like we've been doing, and we chain 1 at the end and then worked till we get back to this point, then slip stitch twice. And I'm going to work while slip stitching twice till I get to this end. So I'm going to go all the way to this part right here. So this will be in this row, in this stitch, that is where I'm going to place my last row of the ribbon. So let me do that, then I'll be back. So this is going to be my last row. So I'm turning and working a single crochet into the back loop of every stitch. Chain 1 and cut off the yarn, leaving an end that you're going to weave in, pull through, then fasten. And the ribbon of the cardigan is done, and everything about this cardigan is done. Like, we are done with this project. I'm so excited to be done with this. I've been working on it for so many days, and I'm glad that it's finally done. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you've liked it, kindly give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to comment, share, follow me on Instagram and on TikTok, and do not forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed. See you in the next tutorial.